This is a video about my trip I did last year on a bike from Villach, Austria to Tbilisi, Georgia. It took me 4 months and I cycled about 3,000 miles. That's what I did. I don't really know why I did it. Just because I wanted to travel and it was a cheap way of doing it, so I could go for a very long time. I was encouraged to do it because I was backpacking around some countries in Eastern Europe, and I met this German man who had cycled from Germany to Thailand, and I was just very inspired by that, and he told me about it for hours and hours, and took my contact and then kept messaging me telling me that I should buy a bike. And then I was in Munich and I was staying with some nice people there, and I just went on eBay and had a look and then found a bike listed for €115, and I just messaged the guy and went and bought that. And so we're using Google Translate. He couldn't really speak German, and I could manage to get €15 off, so I paid €100 for the bike. This bike was kind of a piece of shit, really. But it lasted me the whole way. So yeah, it only cost me 85 quid at the exchange rate at the time. And I bought the bike and then went back to the people's flat that I was staying with and bought some things on Amazon Prime, some tools and bungee cords and things, and when that arrived I bungee corded everything to the bike at the back, my backpack, and it also had it came with a really bad pedal which was completely cracked. And I went to a few bike shops and they couldn't get it off, so I just kind of taped it around, and I did manage to get it off later in the trip, but I kept it the whole way, and it's the only thing I have left from the bike because I sold it in the end. So I had everything, and I am this guy that encouraged me to buy the bike, offered to travel with me for a while because he was cycling when I met him and he was going on the similar route cycling, whereas I was just backpacking and taking the bus. And we arranged to meet in Ljubljana in Slovenia, so I took the train from Munich to Villach in Austria, and then I got off, and since that I was only cycling, and that was my first day from Villach, and I went into the border area between Austria, Italy and Slovenia. I went on the first day into Italy and then into Slovenia, and I think I cycled about 50 kilometers or so, maybe more than that, 60, 70 kilometers, and bought some food from the supermarket, and just some really nice mountains as well that first day, and then I had to find somewhere to sleep, and I was quite paranoid, and I didn't really have I wasn't very well equipped. I just had a sleeping bag, that was all. So I found a bush, and I just slept in there. I didn't have any tent or anything, just on the floor. I also didn't have a solar panel or anything. I just bought a 30,000 milliamp hour power bank on Amazon. So, and I had a smaller power bank, so I could go about 2 weeks charging my phone on that. But I was really conserving it. I wasn't using my phone other than maps and to message my mum at night to say I was alive. Yeah, and I just turned my phone on airplane mode. Same phone I have now. It's just an iPhone, and that's the photo of the bike. So yeah, the next day I got up, and then I made it to Ljubljana about 4 p.m. and I met up with Eric, and yeah, he saw the bike, and then we decided to go into find somewhere to camp, and we left the city, and yeah, and I showed him my bike and things, and the wheels were quite buckled, so the brakes were kind of rubbing on the rim, and that made it a slow bike. Couldn't really pedal quite fast on it because it was always having resistance on the wheels. And yeah, he was like busking and making money playing the guitar, and he had loads of change that he made from doing that. And so we left and got to a supermarket to buy some food. Just paid with a fucking load of cash. And then we ended up sleeping under a bridge. And I mean, he was way more equipped than me. He had a tent and all sorts of tools, and like a gas cooker and everything. And it was quite cold that night, so he was nice enough to lend me his sleeping mat. I mean, I still slept outside not in a tent, but made it a bit warmer. And he cooked some lentil vegetable thing in his cooker. And then we kept carrying on. The next day carried on and cycled together for about a week. We went into Italy, and I think on my fourth night, when we got into Italy, there was a really big storm, and it was closing down with rain, and I didn't have a rain mac. I had a coat, but it wasn't exactly watertight, and slept under another bridge, and I was fucking shivering, freezing cold from all the rain, and I felt sick. And he started a fire, and he threw some like rubber shoe sole onto it, and the fucking fumes were out, and inhaled that, and I just felt so sick, and then I began to projectile vomit for about half an hour. Felt like I was gonna die. But yeah, I got through it and ate and went to bed, and then we kept going on through Italy until Verona, and then he had to leave me because he was going elsewhere, and I wanted to go down Italy. So after a week we split up, and I began the real trip by myself, and I headed down to Parma on the first day on my own, and wasn't the first day sleeping on my own by myself, but first day sleeping on my own, getting into it, and I couldn't find anywhere, so it's just kind of agricultural fields and things, and I just slept by this kind of bramble bush by a road and a field, and I mean there were some houses around, and I was worried someone would see me, but it was fine. I just slept in my sleeping bag, and I had also gone to a decathlon as well a few days before, and brought a sleeping mat and some other things, just to, not enough, but some things to make it a bit easier. And then the next day after that, I cycled into Parma, into the city, and my back wheel, the rim, kind of cracked, so I wasn't able to cycle, so I went to a few bike shops, and luckily enough, this man kindly changed my wheel and took the cassette off and fixed that for me, so I was able to keep going, and yeah, I just headed down to San Marino and slept in bushes and cycled for the whole day, and I found this I stopped and found this abandoned kind of building thing, and just had a little food break, and then I took a look inside, and there were some bicycles in there, some really old bicycles, and I decided to take one of these racks off of these old bikes, and I managed to attach it to mine, just on the nuts by the wheel, and then cable tied it to the, I don't know what that bit's called, where the brakes are, and so yeah, I managed to get a bit more storage on the bike, and I kept that rack for the whole trip, because at first it was really a nightmare. Just I already had a backpack and it was already full of things, and I just tried to shove food in there, and I'd eat most of the food that I bought from the supermarket straight after buying it, just because I didn't have any space to put it on the bike. So yeah, that was useful to get that rack, even though it was kind of rusty, or probably painted with lead paint, I don't know. And then I made it to the Adriatic Sea by Ancona, and I was lucky enough to have someone host me on couch surfing, and I stayed there for 3 or 4 nights, and recharged my power banks and everything. Got showered because I wasn't cleaning really, and I was also going to the toilet outside, and developed quite bad bowel movements, as I should say, and was kind of, the first 3 weeks was kind of explosively shitting sometimes. It was not good, but did manage to get strong enough, and eventually the bowel movements became normal again, and yeah, these people that hosted me were very kind, and they were Pakistani, and it was during Ramadan, and they took me to the mosque and experienced that, and then I carried on after for, I guess, about a week, and it was all along the coast now, and the Adriatic was quite pretty. Nice deep navy blue coloured water, and it was becoming a bit more dry as well, because the north of Italy was very green that time of year, and yeah, I made it to Bari, and I was going to the ferry terminal because I was decided to go to Greece, and I was worried I wasn't going to be able to bring my bike on the boat, but when I bought the ticket, I asked, they said, "Are you on a bike with my helmet?" And I said, "Do I have to pay to put that on?" "No, it's free." So I took the ferry to Greece overnight. I didn't buy a room, I just slept on the floor, and yeah, I got to Greece in the morning, and it was quite different landscape to Italy. It was mountains and had a different smell. It was a bit more rural, I guess, going through Greece, and yeah, the first morning I got into Greece quite early to Igoumenitsa, and about 5 in the morning, and I wanted to get to a hostel because I needed to recharge and stuff, so, and I wanted to see some people because I was getting a bit lonely by myself, and I used Maps.me to navigate myself the whole way, and Google Maps satellite imagery to find places to sleep, and I when I was in Greece, I started cycling. I just went on the highway, on the motorway, in the hard shoulder, because it was the quickest way. I was on there for about 2 hours. I got quite a bit of distance down, but then the highway patrol people came and pulled me over and asked me why I was cycling on there, and they told me it was forbidden, and I was very apologetic, and luckily they didn't fine me or anything, they just told me to get off. But of course now I had to go on the country roads, which were not bad quality, but they were just winding and uphill, downhill, and quite challenging terrain to cross, and I really needed to make it to this hostel because it was going to rain, and I really didn't have anything to cover myself with. So yeah, I kept going and pushing the bike uphill for hours, and get to the top and just whoosh down through this amazing landscape, and made it to Yanina. Stayed in a hostel for 3 days or so, and yeah, it was very nice, and I met some people there, and we drove to the Vikos Gorge, and went to another bike shop there and bought some panniers, some pannier bags for my bike, so I could properly store things, because it was really pissing me off having, even with the new rack thing that I found, I still was like not really efficiently carrying things on my bike. It's just shoving it and bungee cording bags of oranges around and everything. And I also bought a gas cooker so I could cook meals, because up until then I was really just eating bread and things like that. And then after staying there, I went to Meteora, which is a very unusual formation, I guess, with monasteries on the top, and I then went to Thessaloniki after that. It probably took me about 5 days, I think, from there. And one night I really was struggling to find some bushes, some wooded coverage, so I literally just slept by the side of this wheat field and got covered in mosquitoes and everything, and I was woken up at about 5 o'clock in the morning to the sound of an engine, and I looked up and then I saw a tractor thing at the other side of the field mowing up the wheat, and I thought, oh shit, so I just really quickly got up and put my clothes on, attached my bag to the bike and cycled off really quick. And by the time I was laying here and the tractor was coming around, and I just got up and literally was turning around as I was cycling away, so I just started laughing for like 5 minutes. It's quite funny life. And then I went into Thessaloniki, and as I cycled into the city, I wanted to take a shortcut on this road because it was going like that, and there was like a old road there with concrete barriers. I just went through there, and then the concrete thing just smacked the side of my bag and it all fucking ripped open, so my new pannier was fucked. And I got to another hostel in Thessaloniki, and I checked in, and then I just went and bought some sewing needles and some string and spent the whole day sewing up the bag again, and spoke to this very interesting man there who was kind of crazy and had some crazy stories to tell me. And then I like to say and I carried on. I only stayed one night in Thessaloniki, and I carried on. I wanted to go to Samothrace, this hippie island, and so I headed there. And the night after leaving Thessaloniki in this bush, I was sleeping on the ground, and so many wild dogs in Greece, I have to say, always. And a dog found me in the middle of the night and growled at me, and I just completely played dead, and thankfully it didn't attack me or anything, it just went away. But yeah, it was quite a risky life and risky thing to do. But I like to see the stars and be outside and be in nature all the time. And yeah, I carried on, and one day this another cyclist came behind me, and he was from Spain. He was quite a bit older, but he'd been all over the place, and he gave me some water because I'd run out, and it tasted a bit funny. I asked him where he got it from. He said the river, and I was like, okay. And within about 3 days, I developed such severe tonsillitis, or problems with my tonsils. It was pretty much unbearable. It got so big, and I just felt tired, and it hurt to swallow or drink or eat anything. It was like having razor blades in the back of my throat. It lasted for about 10 days, but it was the most severe sickness I've ever had in that area. And yeah, he carried on because he was going up the mountains, and I just couldn't keep up. So we only stayed with each other for 1 day, but yeah, I went off on my own, and I got to Alexandropolis and took the ferry to Samothraki, which was kind of like a hippie island, and I stayed there for 1 week while I was sick, and just basically just slept and slowly cycled around some places around the island. And yeah, it was very nice and natural, and it's just a shame I was so ill. But I got through it, and back to the mainland, and then it took me another 2 days, and then I got to Turkey, and that was just completely different experience. I mean, I got there, I got to the border, and they just asked me if I had anything in my bags. I said no. They let me through. They were very friendly and smiling at me, and obviously I got into Turkey, and I didn't have any phone cellular reception. I got to the first town and tried to take out some cash, and it didn't work, but luckily I had some Euro cash with me, and I found someone to exchange it to the Turkish lira. And I just bought some food, and then camped again, and then the next day I was carrying on trying to get to Istanbul, and I was fiddling with my brakes a bit because they were rubbing to one side and slowing down the bike like hell, and really crazy thing happened. I bought some food, and then I carried on and stopped for a bit to eat, and then my back tyre suddenly popped. It just went so I had a flat tyre, but it was no problem because I knew how to fix it, and I had a repair kit and tyre pumps, so I began to fix that, took the wheel off and found the hole, and as I was doing that, two people on bikes came past me and stopped me, asked me what I was doing, and I just said I'm fixing my bike, and they asked me if I was travelling. I said yeah, and they told me that they run the bike academy in the next town, and they host people travelling on a bike for free, and there's some other people staying there. I can come and stay if I'd like. So I obviously said yeah, and I stayed there, and I just couldn't believe it. They had this massive place with a big circuit, and they were just hosting people for free, paid for by the council, and they got me a SIM card, the cheapest one, and I met loads of some other people travelling on bikes, and it's very inspiring to meet all those people and hear what they've done, and it's this German man who was there asked me if I was on the cheap bike and offered to fix anything. I was, service the bike, and he worked on it for a few hours and tuned the wheels and managed to get my fucked up pedal off, so I could finally replace that. I stayed there for a few days, and then I met this other guy who was English. He was going from England to New Zealand, and he also actually lived quite near from where I do, and we cycled to Istanbul together, and he also got a flat tire as well, and that was my first flat tire as well, by the way, of the trip. So bike came with pretty good tires, and we cycled to Istanbul together, and I stayed in Istanbul for probably about 10 days, I think. I thought it was quite an interesting place, quite a big city, and then we decided to carry on together, me and this other guy. We cycled to Igoumenitsa, Cappadocia, in the middle of Turkey. And it was crazy. I mean, we were cycling in the hard shoulder because it wasn't illegal in Turkey, and it was so dangerous. I mean, the cars were so old as well, and they would always drive over the lines and halfway in the shoulder, I think, to give the fast lane more space, and big trucks with wheels, these spikes coming out. I don't know why they had them, but you always see the metal barrier like fucking scraped up to pieces because they'd hit into it and then you were asleep or, I don't know, drunk or something. And I'd always see crazy things like cars full of 8 people driven by 14-year-old kids. Really such different driving over there. I also bought a tent in Istanbul because it wasn't forbidden to wild camp in Turkey, so I didn't really have a reason not to be in a tent. I just bought a cheap one, but it was good enough. And when me and Ed cycled together, we I prefer wild camping, but he liked to stay in hotels, so we stayed in a few hotels, and it was alright though because they were quite cheap. And we went to a few cities and went past Lake Two, the Pink Lake. Something I'd never seen anything like that. But I wasn't in a very good mood when I got there because it had just been fucking pissing it down with rain, and I got stuck, and he cycled so much faster than me, and I got off the highway because it was just felt so dangerous with the rain pissing down, and I just kind of waited for it to settle, and I got to the lake and saw that. Took a little dip in my feet, and it was painful because the salt was so sharp. And then we got to Cappadocia, and he went on because he was in more of a time limited trip, and I stayed in Cappadocia for 3 weeks, and I volunteered in a hotel in exchange for a free stay and free food, and it was a very nice experience, and spent some time in Cappadocia and saw the strange formations and things, and yeah, then I carried on after that on my own again. And yeah, it was quite challenging. It was hot, and the distances were so long across this land, and it was high altitude. It's about 2,000 meters above sea level for most of the time, so the air was so thin, and I was always waking up in the morning with such a dry throat. And I mean, I was also drinking tap water for the whole thing, so I was always getting some kind of bugs and things, but I guess it makes your immune system strong, I don't know. Maybe it's for the chemicals. But yeah. And so I had some amazing experiences going through Turkey on my own. I got invited to a wedding one day when I was going through a town. Some people stopped me, called me over and gave me some tea, always giving me tea. And yeah, they gave me some food, and then within 10 minutes there was about like 20-30 people surrounding me and curiosity, and they told me that there was going to be a wedding and I could come, so I went to the wedding. And yeah, it was very nice, and it's more similar to a wedding we'd have over here, to be honest with you. It was basically the same, except the music and the dressing was different. Yeah, and I mean, I was always being offered things from people. They were always stopping me and giving me tea and food, and yeah, on other days, and some people stopped me and just basically sat me down in their farm for the whole day and gave me food, and had broken conversations and Google Translate. And yeah, just so friendly, really. And then I had to cross the Pontine Mountains because I was going to Georgia, and I had to get to the Black Sea, and that was challenging as well, going uphill again. And one day this tractor was coming past me. I was going uphill and pushing my bike up, and he stopped and got out, and then just tried to lift my bike on the back of his rack, and it didn't fit. And then he went on for another minute and stopped again, and then just got out this chain and clipped it to the back and clipped my bike on, and then I was like getting towed uphill on a bike on a fucking like dual carriageway. It was just so crazy. And he pulled me up for about 20 minutes and then stopped, and then was literally like talking to me, stopped in the middle of the fucking lane, trying to like take my phone number. It was just crazy. Yeah. And then I think the next day I was camping in these mountains, and this farmer found me while I was setting up my tent, and I just kind of went like, okay, like, can I camp here? And he told me to stop because there's dogs, and he took me back to his cabin and gave me food and gave me some fresh milk tea thing, and yeah, I got a bit paranoid because he didn't want to use Google Translate, and he didn't know any English, and my Turkish was very limited. There was also a shotgun on the bed. I mean, I'm not used to seeing guns, so it was a bit I wouldn't say scary, but I was certainly a bit on edge. But I mean, they didn't do anything with it. It was fine, and I went to bed and went the next morning. So yeah, and then I got to the top of the mountains, and it was honestly disgusting because it was basically just a cloud, and everything just got soaking wet, and I hate the rain. And I got to the peak, and then it was only downhill, but it was just raining the whole time, and it was just disgusting. And I got down to the bottom by the Black Sea, and I camped, but my whole tent was wet, and all of my clothes, and it was just horrendous. And yeah, and then I continued, and I made it to Georgia, and that was just completely a milestone because I couldn't believe that I would be able to get there, especially on that bike, which was like a fucking piece of just fucking I don't know. And so yeah, I made it to Georgia and stayed in Batumi for 3 nights in a hostel, and then I carried on and got hosted again by some drunk people in Georgia who just let me just took me into the garden and gave me loads of fucking alcohol, gave me loads of wine, loads of vodka, and they were also drunk. And this one guy drove home pissed, and then came back an hour later to drink even more. Just insane. And yeah, very friendly people. And I carried on, and then I met two more people on bikes, this Korean man and this Bulgarian man. And yeah, this Bulgarian man, who was, I think he was about 40, but yeah, wow, he'd been all over the world and cycling, and he didn't even have any social media or any online record of anything, just himself and email. So it's really interesting to meet people like this who are just completely living a alternative life outside of any normal means or anything connected to anything, you know. It's very, very interesting. And then yeah, us three cycled together for about 4 days, and then they went off, and in my last 2 days I was by myself and cycled to Tbilisi, Georgia, and yeah, I finished the trip there. Four months on a bike, spending about £10 a day just on food, because it was mainly camping for free outside, and I wasn't paying to transport myself. And yeah, it was a crazy trip, the most crazy thing I ever did. And I really don't know why I did it. I mean, just did. No, I don't regret it at all. And I sold the bike in the end. I didn't post it back to me. Took it to a bike shop and just said, "Do you want to buy a bike? And how much you want?" I said, "Just take it." And they gave me €30 for it. So God knows where that bike is now. Someone might have it, and they probably have no idea that it was taken all the way from Austria, and that it has a story to it that, yeah. And that's what I have left from the bike. The kickstand and the pedal, which you can probably see is like completely fucked. That lasted me 2 months until I got it off. And that's the route I took from Austria down into Slovenia, all the way down Italy to Bari, and then to Greece, across Greece, into Turkey, through Turkey, and then into Georgia. So yeah, I'm not making this to go viral or anything. I just hope someone watches it and finds it interesting, and hopefully it inspires someone to do a similar thing or something. And yeah, I'm not very confident behind a camera, so I probably sound fucking awkward and not very inspiring, but I hope it was.